Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. Today's video is a recap of the weekend activities in Chicago, and we've got a lot to talk about, including Ryan Blaney not sugarcoating his thoughts on Carson Hocevar's ugly history of driving, including the rookie driver's move at Nashville last weekend that earned him a fine and points penalty. What I think Joey Logano's solid performance in the Xfinity Series number 15 car means for Hailie Deegan, plus some news I heard on the 22-year-old's future at AM Racing. And of course, a look at yesterday's unexpected rain-shortened race in the Windy City. I was there for last year's deluge, and quite honestly, I enjoyed it more than this year's race for one reason. We knew it was going to rain, so we were all prepared for a delay. This year, no one thought it was going to rain at all. It was a 10 to 20% chance of rain all week. But literally, just as the engines fired, the rains came, and it was the first of several delays in a choppy race that saw Alex Bowman become the first Cup Series regular to win in Chicago. However, before we talk about the Hendrick Motorsports driver snapping his 80-race winless streak, let's go back to what the 2023 Cup Series champion had to say in his media availability on Saturday, when asked about the behavior and subsequent penalty for Carson Hocevar following his move last week when he hooked Harrison Burton under caution out of frustration. Take a listen.
Yeah, don't hook anybody. You get penalized. Pay money, pay points, park them if you have to. That's something I've seen too many times out of that guy from different series. That's not cool. Don't do that. They parked Lane Ridge for 2 laps for running through the back of somebody in that truck race at Nashville, and I think everyone made a big deal when Hocevar did that in the Cup race, and then they, rightfully penalized him after the race. That's the only way you're going to get that stuff to stop. You have to make them pay a lot of money, fine them from points, things like that. If it's bad enough, make them sit out. That's just stuff you learn as a young driver. Don't do. Like, there's a lot of no-nos, and that's one of them. And I don't care if it's under caution or under green. Both of them are bad. Obviously, under green's worse. I think NASCAR did the right thing of penalizing, because you have to slap people, and there has to be repercussions for what you do when it's something like that. And like I said, that's something I've seen be reoccurring with him. That hopefully he learns from it, and hopefully when there's a little bit of hole in his pocket after the money he had to pay, hopefully it teaches you a lesson of don't do that anymore.
Blaney is spot on, but will a lighter pocketbook inspire Hocevar to change? I guess time will tell. Moving on to Saturday's Xfinity Series race, and I was paying particular attention to Joey Logano's performance because he was substituting for Hailie Deegan in the number 15 car. Before I discuss Logano's race, I talked to one source familiar with the situation, and it didn't sound like this was a one-race deal for Deegan. And as I'm about to record this script, the breaking news is Deegan is out. One thing we know for sure is Joey Logano proved that the AM racing car was better than how Deegan has shown through the first 17 races. The two-time Cup Series champion qualified 15th, and it was during that qualifying session that he had a funny exchange with his crew chief, showing it had been a while since he last wheeled an Xfinity Series car, 2019 to be exact.
Your water temp really isn't coming down, so I don't know what you're going to do. Still 25. We're still cool, working right here with ice. Cool, but wrong heat. It's 4.
When the race started, it was entertaining as hell as Kyle Larson and Shane Van Gisbergen battled back and forth throughout the first half of the race, and it was great to see both drivers showing their racecraft. By that, I mean they weren't even touching the other car while making passes. They were timing their moves and the appropriate angles and making the passes. Like I said, it was truly fun to watch. Fast forward to that final stage, and it became a caution fest. In the end, SVG won his second race in Chicago and his third consecutive Xfinity Series road course race, holding off Ty Gibbs and Kyle Larson. As for Joey Logano, the number 15 car never dropped below 17th the entire race. That came in stage 2. When he took the checkered flag, he finished 8th and offered some words of advice to the team.
Quit hang in there with me here. Some good changes
in practice. Definitely a lot of room to go there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll keep working on this thing. We'll make our product better based on your comments. I do appreciate it.
Spotters, good job up there. Gave me the info I needed. Good job.
After the race, the runner-up finisher, Ty Gibbs, was interviewed about his day and asked specifically about what happened on pit road when he unexpectedly slowed, which forced Cole Custer to go around him and pass, and ultimately cost the Stewart-Haas Racing driver a penalty.
I just was taking a break on pit road. I was going slow. What? Nah, I was in first gear. I was in the wrong gear, so it's a little embarrassing, but I think we finally got back around them. So.
A note for tomorrow then, right?
Yeah.
He'll get it tomorrow, guys. Wow, there we go. Hey, he promised me he would do that.
Gibbs, albeit a bit awkward, showing a humorous side, and I have to give him some credit. Moving on to Sunday, and this year had a totally different vibe than last year. Last year, as I said, we all knew it was going to rain. We knew weather was going to affect the start time, length of race, and fan turnout. It did all of those things. This year, I heard numerous times on NBC's broadcast how this almost felt like the first time because of last year's issues with the weather. Things were going according to plan, including concerts, pre-race ceremonies, everything up until the drivers firing their engines. Then, Mother Nature intervened for a third consecutive weekend. After a run a few weeks ago at New Hampshire on the wet tires, NASCAR gave teams the option after their inspection lap to decide between wet tires or slicks to start the race. I have to say that added an unexpected element of intrigue right from the start. Who would choose what tire? 7 teams, including all of the Penske cars, went with the wet tires, and it started off well for them, but quickly went south as the track began to dry and those cars began losing spots. Of note in that first stage, the rain started late in the stage and Alex Bowman got into the rear of Bubba Wallace and sent him for a spin. More on this story in a bit. I was listening to Chase Elliott during that first stage and he was having issues with the team radio and didn't hide his frustration. Take a listen.
No, I'm good on a tear off. I'll do my best to get stopped back. Let's hit that last part again. You got an opening behind you, then the one's behind him, one's 2 back. The car right in front of you is 2 back, opening you. Repeat, Trey, please. Yep, I got you. The one is at your 2 away. The one ahead of you is at your 2 away. Make sure you stop. I can't hear y'all, so I don't really know what to do on that.
Chase, I don't know if you can hear me better through here. The one is at your 2 away, so we will stop you back on pit road.
Yeah, I've heard that 15 times. I just didn't hear the end of it.
Corey LaJoie spun late in the stage, and with the rains picking up, NASCAR officials dragged it out until the end of the stage, which SVG won. After the pit stops and teams switching over to wet tires, chaos ensued as the cars tried to blend back into the field, but Christopher Bell had to hit the brakes with the jet dryers coming by, which started a chain reaction and led to 2311 Racing teammates getting into each other. The chaos picked up in intensity on the restart, and drivers were facing terrible conditions, which led to the first big favorite making an early exit when Chase Briscoe went for a big slide and got into SVG, which sent the number 16 into the wall and ended the defending race winner's day. And then came another delay. This one was interesting, and it felt like Mother Nature was just toying with us because once again, after the cars had been uncovered, drivers were secured in their seats and about to refire engines, the rains picked back up. Eventually, after a delay of almost an hour and 45 minutes, racing action resumed at 7:20 Central Time. That meant, based on NASCAR's announcement earlier, we had exactly 1 hour of racing remaining. When the race resumed, the strategy everyone thought would be the winning one was which team would successfully navigate transitioning from the wet tires to the slicks. In that second stage, Christopher Bell took the lead from Ty Gibbs, and then our second favorite for the day, Kyle Larson, made his exit from the race after a hard impact into the tire barrier. Here's the audio.
Probably destroyed.
Try to back it up and get out of there if you can.
I'm stuck.
That's it for. You pull forward a little bit and then back up again.
Try.
Stay in for a second. Don't get out yet. See if they'll pull you out. Don't get out yet. Ask them to pull you out.
Sorry, it's done.
During that break in action, Kyle Busch talked with his team and wasn't happy with his car.
What'd you have there, Kyle?
Fucking ice, man.
on 4 rubber tires and I got hockey pucks. I don't fucking get it. I have 0 traction. I'm at 10% throttle spinning tires. Like, I touch throttle and I'm spinning tires. I don't know how they're doing it.
How crazy was this race? Joey Hand won the second stage on strategy as several of the leaders switched to slicks just before the stage break. Hand and Alex Bowman didn't. In that final stage, we were racing to the clock, and I have to give NBC a lot of credit for 2 things: showing the clock and also showing what cars had as far as tires were concerned. That gave fans an idea of who might be moving what direction in the field depending on track conditions. In that final restart with 5 minutes remaining, everyone was thinking Christopher Bell was the car to watch because he was the first car on slicks. The number 20 car was the one to watch until he wasn't, when he was involved in an incident with several cars, including his teammate Martin Truex Jr., which dropped Bell back in the pack. Bowman passed Joey Hand and held off a late charge from Tyler Reddick, who, on slicks, looked like he was going to catch the number 48 car on the final laps, but cut turn 5 short and hit the wall, slowing him down and killing his momentum. The HMS driver cruised to victory and ended his 80-race winless streak, but things got interesting on the cool-down lap when Bubba Wallace showed his displeasure and aggressively drove into the side of Bowman's car, which knocked the 48 car into the wall. Now, I know there are varying opinions out there on the subject. Here's mine. It's not a penalty because, as many have pointed out, NASCAR didn't penalize Martin Truex Jr. for his much more aggressive post-race actions at Richmond earlier this year when he did something similar to Kyle Larson and then went after JGR teammate Denny Hamlin, slamming into the rear of his number 11 car multiple times. That said, I do have an issue with the timing of the contact, as both Wallace and Bowman's window nets were down. Fortunately, the number 48 pilot didn't have his hand out the window and wasn't waving to fans when it happened. He said after the race there shouldn't be a penalty, so that will help in NASCAR's eyes. But my solution is this: NASCAR needs to intervene and stop the weaponization of the cars. Just like they did last week with Carson Hocevar at Nashville, going forward, the sanctioning body needs to tell drivers any contact after the race, just like in a caution, will not be tolerated and drivers will be punished. Because this is a completely different conversation if Bowman did have his hand out the window when Wallace drove into the side and he breaks his hand or wrist. It shouldn't matter where it happens. If you make contact after the checkered flag, it's some kind of penalty, like a fine and points penalty. A suspension, as some have suggested, is completely over the top, in my opinion. All right, guys, that's a wrap on this episode. Let's start with what I just talked about. What do you think is the solution going forward for post-race contact? Do nothing and let it continue? Or do you think officials should intervene going forward? What did you think of the overall race? Like I said, it was definitely entertaining racing as it was last year, with passing, the varying tire strategies, and the race clock. But the choppy nature of it and NASCAR's decision to drag out that first stage caution after the LaJoie spin was a little much for me. Hopefully, they'll come back next year to the Windy City and the third time will be the charm. And backing up to Saturday, what did you think of Ty Gibbs' post-race interview and dousing of NBC's Dave Burns? And let me know what you think about Joey Logano's performance and if you think it had any impact on Hailie Deegan leaving AM Racing. Remember, if you want to read my written work, go check it out at heavy.com. Also, go check out my weekly podcast on the Blue Wire Network. Thanks as always for supporting the channel and have a great rest of your day.